working their way in.
All right, well, thank you. I'll just give a brief introduction, turn the time back over to Jordan. We're glad everybody's on the call today. This is exciting, this trip that's planned for our group from China and Japan and Taiwan in March. This will actually be the first co-impact sourcing expedition that we involved some of our international leaders, and we're happy to do that. We'll do more of this in the future. I just wanted to kind of introduce, give some more background information on our relationship with CHOICE Humanitarian today for this call. CHOICE is our partner that we use in our co-impact sourcing initiatives, many of those initiatives around the world. And in Nepal, CHOICE is active in some economic development projects in different areas of the world, including Nepal. And one of the strategies where they align with our strategies to diversify our supply chain is on helping people develop a supply of our aromatic plants and distilling those plants into high quality essential oils. And that, in addition to a number of the other things that CHOICE Humanitarian does in Nepal, that fits perfectly with a plan to help with economic development in the countries. CHOICE does a great job. They have a great model of not just providing charity to some impoverished areas of the world, but actually to solve the problems in those areas through business development and helping the people of these areas help themselves. They do a great job with that. And again, we have projects with them in Guatemala and in Nepal and other places in the world. One of the things that CHOICE Humanitarian is also expert at is leading service expeditions to these areas. And they do this all year round and take different groups and have a great record of helping people with a great experience on service trips. And so we have turned to them as one of our partner for taking care of both your safety and also for your experience, having a great experience on the trip. So you have a great local offices that will make sure that you're oriented to the schedule and arriving to Nepal. But when you get out of the airport in Nepal, you will have CHOICE Humanitarian there waiting for you. And we are in their care from the minute we walk out of that airport until we go back into the airport at the end of the week. Again, they've done this. They've brought other groups to Nepal for several years now, and we've been there. We work with them closely on the ground with our projects there, and we have some great contacts on the ground in Nepal that will do a great job for us. So anyway, we're happy to be partnered with CHOICE Humanitarian. I just want to say that our specific experience that we've designed for you in March, we refer to it as a co-impact sourcing expedition. There will be opportunities to perform some service in these communities, but the program is designed not only to provide you with service opportunities, but also to let you have exposure to the harvest of wintergreen and a collection of the wintergreen, and also to the distillation of wintergreen. So you're going to be exposed to our supply chain. You're going to provide some service while you're there, and then you're also going to participate in some of the nice, beautiful cultural offerings of the country of Nepal and the great people of Nepal. So, that's a unique experience that you'll have that's designed specifically for our doTERRA wellness advocates. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn the time over to Jordan and from CHOICE Humanitarian, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about CHOICE and talk more specifically about what you can expect on this trip and how we can all prepare to have a great activity here in March. So I turn the time over to you. Okay, Jordan?
Great. Thanks, Rob. And I appreciate let me make sure I'm not muted here. Okay. Well, I appreciate that introduction, and Choice has loved its partnership with, let's see if I can, sorry here, I'm trying to make this easy to view. Maybe that's not going to work. Okay, well, we will go right here. Choice has absolutely loved its partnership with doTERRA, and we look forward to all of these trips because, as Rob mentioned, there are opportunities to both serve a community and also explore the whole value chain around wintergreen. Today, we're going to talk about a few things: a quick introduction to the leaders who will be a part of this expedition. We're then going to discuss what Choice Humanitarian does before an expedition arrives, when an expedition is there, and long after an expedition leaves, and talk a little bit about the partnership with doTERRA and the impact that that has in Nepal, and we'll see that firsthand. And then we're going to focus most of our time on the trip itinerary, learning about the project, work, and village, and really exploring what it means to go on a trip like this, an expedition like this, and to learn a few things that we can do to prepare to make it really successful. Because for many of you, this is going to be a very new experience. So with that, some quick introductions to the team. My name is Jordan Menzel. I'm the Director of Expeditions here at Choice Humanitarian. I will not be on the trip, but I am working closely with doTERRA and Tammy and Rob on the planning of this trip. And so all the questions and things that you might have here at Choice, we have a headquarters team who's very helpful and very eager to ensure that everyone is prepared for the experience. I want to introduce one of your expedition leaders for Choice Humanitarian, and I will let her introduce herself more thoroughly. But Veronica Schindler will be one of your trip leads and expedition leaders. She has extensive experience leading trips for Guatemala, or for Choice all over the world, and not just in Nepal, but including areas like Guatemala. And she has also extensive experience in Nepal, and will actually be based in Nepal for a number of months, not only to accommodate this expedition, but also to support the subsequent doTERRA expeditions. And so I'll let Veronica introduce herself.
Thank you, Jordan. Again, my name is Veronica Schindler, and I've been affiliated with Choice Humanitarian since my first expedition with them in 2009. As Jordan said, I've had the pleasure of leading a number of expeditions to Nepal, so I'm very excited to be able to help facilitate your experience in Nepal and to get to know you and learn more about doTERRA. I have a university background and just finished a lengthy stint at Stanford University here in California, working in development communications, and I'm really excited to now be able to shift and have this time to help facilitate these really wonderful expeditions in Nepal, and look forward to helping you have a really wonderful experience yourself.
And another one of your important trip leads is also an important representative from doTERRA who will be joining. Is Tim Valentiner on the call? I know he was traveling today and had a tight timeline.
I am. I'm here. Yeah, I just joined right when Rob started speaking. So thank you. Yeah, I just got off the plane, and but I made it, so I'm here. Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Tim, yeah, and maybe if you just want to introduce yourself and maybe just briefly touch on the hat you'll wear from doTERRA, as well as kind of your experience, you know, leading trips with this type of expedition, that might be helpful for participants.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm very excited to be part of this trip, this first trip in March to Nepal. This is an area of the world that doTERRA has been spending quite a bit of time, from the sourcing team and then our Healing Hands Foundation team, for the past now over a year and a half, been working in collaboration with Choice to establish this co-impact sourcing initiative for wintergreen oil, which was launched, of course, at our recent convention in September. So this is an area of the world that's become near and dear to my heart personally, and I know for all of us, with the earthquake relief and everything that our wellness advocates were so generously donated in the aftermath of the earthquake, and then linked with our Healing Hands donation work and the co-impact sourcing initiative we launched for wintergreen oil sourcing. Nepal's become a very unique and major focus for us recently. I'm excited to wear, two different hats. One is part of our co-impact sourcing initiative at doTERRA. I'm the director of our strategic sourcing team. So I am lucky to get to be involved with all of our co-impact sourcing initiatives. And this is one, like I said, we've been working on recently. So I'll be able to be with the group to help answer questions and kind of facilitate that experience for the group in terms of understanding why this is such a unique place in the world, why wintergreen oil specifically was one we wanted to target from Nepal, how the different harvesting and cooperative networks work for collecting the wintergreen, how it gets distilled, how it gets brought to the market and shipped to us. So kind of help everyone have a full hands-on experience and understanding how the whole process works for essential oil production, from organization of these communities to harvesting, distilling, preparing the oil, and shipping it to the United States where it gets bottled and then made available to all of our customers. So that'll be an exciting part of the trip. And then also all of the work that's gone in conjunction with that in terms of the Healing Hands work leading up to the initiative's launch and then afterwards. And then I personally have been fortunate enough to be involved with CHOICE Humanitarian for many years, 20 plus years now. And so I've been able to lead expeditions like this, many expeditions over the years. So I'll be able to help support Veronica and the CHOICE team on the ground there for logistics and just making sure, as Rob said at the beginning, making sure everyone has a comfortable and amazing, life-changing experience, and also helping wear the hat from our sourcing team in having everyone answer as many questions as we can and help everyone have a really amazing experience seeing how an essential oil gets produced on the ground in the country where it's coming from. So
well, great.
I'm very excited to be on the trip and can't wait.
Thanks, Tim. And so as you can see, there's a great group who's going to be a part of the leadership on the group side of things. I do want to take just a quick minute and also introduce you to a few names and faces that will become more familiar once you arrive in Nepal. But every expedition not only is guided by trained expedition leaders, or in this instance, some doTERRA leadership, but it's received with an in-country team who has been living and working and developing in these communities for years. And a few, let's see, if I can, I'm going to do a quick mute here. Everyone on a phone, if you get a chance, could mute that. That would be great. I think we got it. Just had a little feedback here. There we go. All right. So as I was saying, in every country in which CHOICE operates, there's an in-country team. And these individuals, Bishnu and his entire team, will play a very active role in the preparation, making sure that things like food and transport and all the logistics around hotels and getting everyone safely from point A to B are taken care of. And so your team consists of your expedition leaders and also this in-country team. And not only have they been working to prepare the logistics of travel and food and sleeping for an expedition, but they've been working year-round with communities all over in Nepal, helping those communities carry out the preparatory work for their own development projects, some of which might include the building out of the industry for wintergreen. Other types of projects, which we'll talk about, include reconstruction of schools and homes in the aftermath of the earthquake. So these are names and faces that will become very dear to many of you, and we just want to let you know that all of your trip is supported by many here at the headquarters and also in country in Nepal. So with that, just a quick introduction to CHOICE Humanitarian as an organization. As Tim mentioned, he's been a part of CHOICE for 20-something years, and CHOICE has actually been around for over 30 years, founded initially out of Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, in the early 80s, and built around the idea that with village-led or community-driven development initiatives, individuals and families can really lead themselves out of extreme poverty. And so CHOICE has built itself over the years by partnering and ultimately working through local in-country teams who are native to the areas in which CHOICE operates and who are working countless hours every day with their own community members to really apply the CHOICE model of development. I just want to give you a snapshot about where CHOICE works before I talk a little bit about how it works. But as you can see here, CHOICE is located all over the world. We operate not only in Nepal, but also in throughout Central and South America, as well as Kenya. And in each of these countries, we have an in-country team, such as Vishnu and his team that I just introduced you to, who are working with local governments, and they're working with local village leaders to help those leaders identify and decide and prioritize what projects are most important to their communities. Those projects could be around schoolhouses, or creating economic opportunities, or improving basic access to health or sanitation, etc. So lots of different types of projects, and year-round CHOICE in-country teams are working with villagers to leverage resources along with the village's resources, as well as the resources from partners like doTERRA and its co-impact sourcing initiative, as well as the Helping Hands Foundation. Put those resources to work in a very leveraged and impactful way. And so that goes around in all the countries in which CHOICE operates. And it's applying a basic model that I'll introduce you to really briefly here. And that model is that CHOICE and its in-country teams are working with communities that are committed to change. And those communities are committed to putting in their own resources to that change. CHOICE will work training village leadership so that they can prioritize and organize and leverage their own resources in order to start to develop a plan to execute that change. And with that plan comes a lot of thoughtful participation from everyone in the community decision-making process, including men and women and families, to decide what is in their best interest. And then where CHOICE really supports them is carrying out the execution or the building or the constructing or the fundraising for whatever project that community has identified. And then, of course, the celebration, the community joy that comes by executing a project in your own community that is directly impacting the quality of life of children and families, as well as economic opportunities, and really evaluating how that can be done better and repeating that cycle. And so where expeditions fit in is expeditions are a rare and unique opportunity where a group of individuals, just like this group with doTERRA, is going to come down and support one phase of a project that is being carried out by villagers and village leaders. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but expeditions are a unique opportunity to live and be invited into the homes and communities of villagers, to eat together, to work together on projects that they're carrying out, and to really share in the intercultural exchange that comes by exchanging cultures, learning from one another, and doing something that edifies both those who are visiting as well as those who are being visited and supported. And so expeditions are a really unique opportunity to do that. And because they're a unique opportunity, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in many instances to support such an important phase of a community's process out of extreme poverty. And Tim already talked a bit about this, so we might move forward unless Tim or Rob have anything else to share about how the co-impact sourcing initiative fits into that. I think both added thoughts on that, but I'll give you guys a minute if you want to add anything more.
You know what, I think that will be the experience of the trip. We've described that a number of times as we've talked about co-impact sourcing, but this gives everybody a great opportunity, especially our leaders, to experience and see it firsthand. You'll understand it in a way that we can't even explain in words when you go on this trip. But anyway, we've spent some time talking about that in the field, and I don't have anything to add to that right now. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, same. I mean, of course, I think the best way to introduce this would be if anyone hasn't yet seen the wintergreen co-impact sourcing video that was shown at convention. That's probably the best way to get it. But I can't imagine anyone on this call hasn't seen that yet. So, but no, I think we've talked enough about it, and I think everyone, like Rob said, this is a great way for anyone to intimately get a hands-on experience like you can't ever get through talking about it or even watching a great video about it.
Well, that's great, and we'll talk in the itinerary about how this the initiative will also be a part of the expedition as well. One quick note here, because I mentioned that this is a rare opportunity where we are invited into a very remote and rural community that is nestled within a country that is also dealing with the many challenges of development and lacking infrastructure, and in some instances, very basic resources. This is not your average traveling experience. There are many things about an expedition experience that we do know and that we can plan for. And there are also factors, due to the nature of where we're going and the work that we're doing, that we can't always plan for. And so right now, it's very important to start to look at the expedition as an opportunity to experience a very rare type of travel into a remote area oriented around learning and service that is rooted in very fun and beautiful experiences that oftentimes happen when we least expect them. And so, for example, you will all have access and have likely seen your trip itinerary, and we will talk about that now. But there are always going to be factors around this that include delays or traffic or flat tires. And you've had a chance to meet the team and get a sense for who will be leading the experience. But a big component will be the many people we don't yet know, who include the village leaders and members who we'll be working with when we get to Nepal. We'll have wonderful food, and Verona will talk about that. But everyone will experience different levels of health. And so coming prepared with your right medications and having the resources along with our team to coach you through any issues that arise are common types of experiences on expeditions. And as you can kind of see as well, things like accommodations and safety and making sure you're prepared are really what we here at CHOICE want to cover in this conversation, as well as in the couple weeks building up to your expedition, and let you know that there are many factors of the experience that we can't yet prepare you for because they will unfold so organically. And that has to do with the way we interact with the village, the wonderful opportunities we have to learn from one another, as well as the many other factors that are unknown that do happen with international travel. But I can tell you that the rich part of every expedition is that everyone is coming with a desire to help and to serve. And the best part of the expedition is that, in a way we can't even imagine, we will all individually find that we have been edified and changed by the beautiful experience that comes from working together hand in hand with coworkers and also villagers. So with that in mind, I want to turn it over to Veronica so we can discuss all of these factors that we know, so that you guys have the tools and resources necessary to handle all of the many fun things that we do not yet know about the experience we're about to have.
Thank you, Jordan. So as you've seen in your trip itinerary, and you'll see on the screen now, I'll walk you through these. We will arrive March 4th in Kathmandu, and we will make sure that there is a shuttle to pick you up from the Kathmandu airport to take you to Shambhala Hotel, where we will have an orientation meeting and dinner all together as a group and get to know one another a little bit. The next morning, Saturday, we will have breakfast at the hotel, and there will be time for you to explore Kathmandu and take in some of the sites that will be of particular interest to you. There's a lot of rich history there, so it will be a wonderful experience for you. We will travel together 4 hours to Makwanpur, a village where we will be welcomed warmly. That will be followed by a dinner, and we will unpack and settle in. And I'll talk a little bit later about what those accommodations will look like. And then Sunday and Monday in Makwanpur, that will be an opportunity to do, as was mentioned by Tim and by Rob, to really look at that wintergreen sourcing and the distillery, and to really get up close and personal with what that wintergreen production looks like start to finish. So that will be a really wonderful opportunity there. There will also be opportunities for service, as was mentioned, and I'll talk about that a little bit. We will have the opportunity to work on some school building, in particular, the finishing of some furniture and some painting that will help that school get in great shape for the students in that area. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit in more detail in just a little bit. There will be wonderful opportunities to interact with members of the village, to play games, to enjoy music together, to dance, a lot of fun things. We'll have lunch together as a group, also dinner in the evening. And at night, there will be time for your personal reflection, to relax, to have some good group discussions. On the 8th, we will travel from Makwanpur to Chitwan, the park, and we'll have breakfast at the beginning of that day, and a farewell celebration in Makwanpur, and then the chance to explore the park and to stay overnight in the lodge and enjoy the natural beauty there and those surroundings. On Wednesday the 9th, headed from Chitwan, after having breakfast, we'll take a long bus ride back to Kathmandu, to the Shambhala Hotel. This will be a great chance to visit with one another and share your experiences, and kind of talk about the things that you've learned from the trip. And we'll have a group dinner that night, kind of a debrief conversation and a farewell. And then the next morning, our last day there, breakfast on your own, and chance to explore some more before there's the shuttle to the airport. So that's a quick snapshot, and I'll give you a little bit more detail about some of these logistics as we move forward here. So just so you have a sense of where we're headed in Nepal, you'll notice where that blue arrow is pointing. That's where where Kathmandu is. That's where we will all rendezvous and fly in, and that will be our departure point. And then the red arrow points to the area of choice focus, which is in the Lamjung district. So that's the eastern side there. So just to help you have a sense of which direction we'll be headed and where we will be spending our time. One quick note.
Veronica.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, this is Tim. So this map is actually not right, because we aren't going to Lamjung.
You're right.
We're going to be the Makwanpur.
My apologies.
So it'll yeah, no worries. It's just south of Kathmandu, just so directly south of Kathmandu is the area where this group will be, right?
Yeah, my apologies there. I still have Lamjung on the brain from the orientation we did for another group today, so I apologize for that.
Oh, yes. No worries, no worries.
So yes, you are correct, Tim. So yes, headed to the Makwanpur area.
For those looking, if you can see, it's kind of right around here. So it's a little bit closer to Kathmandu. And this is the primary area where CHOICE and doTERRA have been operating. And so one thing that's very exciting about this area where we'll be going is, in many respects, it's a newer area that is beginning to rebuild and also bring online a lot of its wintergreen operations. And so this group will have the opportunity to see what that looks like very early stage for both CHOICE and as well some of the wintergreen sourcing. So it's very, very unique area to go to.
And the photo here is of the Makwanpur area. So this gives you a sense of the beautiful landscape that we'll be enjoying as we get into the Makwanpur area. And just a note about traveling there, that travel in Nepal will often be on roads that are quite rough. And so just to prepare yourself for, we'll be in large buses as we leave the city, but there can be the need to switch to smaller buses for rougher terrain, and just so that you can prepare to be comfortable. We'll encourage you to prepare for what could be a little bit bumpy and a little bit windy, and to just make sure that you prepare if you tend to get motion sick. That we want you to be comfortable as you enjoy these beautiful views and as we travel together along those roads.
Right.
So as was mentioned earlier in the call, we will have a chance to be working on some school house construction projects. And to give you a little bit of context, we did mention the earthquake earlier, but just to refresh your memory, Nepal was struck by a very large earthquake to the magnitude of about 7.8 to 8.1 back in April. And it's referred to as the Gorkha quake. And when that struck, more than 9,000 people were killed, and more than 20,000 people were injured. And there was, it triggered landslides and additional aftershocks, and was very devastating for Nepal. It was their worst natural disaster since the 1930s, when there was another very large earthquake. In addition to the loss of life, there was a lot of damage to historical structures as well as homes and schools. And so the schoolhouse rebuilding is really an important part of the rebuilding process, not only because of the immediate need that it fills in the area, but that the model that CHOICE is using as they rebuild schools and homes is really becoming a standard, or a model that other organizations will be using to make sure that we have safe structures in these areas. A quick note about the schools that CHOICE had built in one of the hardest hit regions. You know, there were about 45 schools that were built, and they all made it through the quake, but there were about 4,500 schools that were devastated. And so this is a really important effort to make sure that children have these earthquake-safe schools so that they can get back to that semblance of structure and normalcy as the country rebuilds. So we'll be in Daman and Makwanpur, and as you'll see, there are about 4,400 people, and we'll be working on that school and have a chance, like I said, really to do some of that wonderful finishing work to help make sure that it's ready for the students to occupy it. So as Jordan mentioned, the expedition is unlike a lot of travel that you may have done. It's essentially going to be like a camping trip. And so although we will be sleeping indoors, set your expectations for it to be something like a camping trip that you would take, in that you will be sleeping in a sleeping bag, and it will be a group environment. So I'll walk you through what some of those elements look like. You will have 3 meals prepared for you every day by a wonderful, well-trained kitchen staff, and they do a terrific job of providing really wonderful food, some traditional Nepali food, some other Asian influenced dishes, and then sometimes just a mixture. So you will be well fed, and there will be plenty of clean drinking water available for your use. As far as our accommodations, we will be, like I said, in sleeping bags in a group sleeping environment that will be quite cozy, and we'll be using schoolhouse rooms for that. And those will be supplemented by some tent structures for things like cooking, bucket showers. And so there won't be, conventional showers, but there will be some cold water and buckets for washing. And then, as is traditional for the area, those squat latrines. So basic, very much like a camping trip, but just want to make sure that you have the supplies you'll need, and we'll go through that in a little bit to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible in this environment.
And maybe just one note to add on top of that. This is entirely with respect to the nights where we will be staying in Daman, Makwanpur.
Yes.
And the nights when we arrive in Kathmandu, we will be staying in a hotel. It will be double occupancy. It's a very nice hotel called the Shambhala Hotel. And also, as we're in the Chitwan Park, and our final night in Kathmandu, we will also be in hotels that night. So these are for the nights. when we are in the community working with villagers on the schoolhouse project and also learning about wintergreen.
Yeah. Thank you. Good catch there, Jordan. So as we mentioned, in addition to the wonderful experience we'll be having with the wintergreen sourcing, there will be an opportunity to do some service. And so we encourage you to pack clothing that can get dirty and stained, so that as you're working, you won't have your good clothes destroyed. But as we will be doing things like painting and working on finishing furniture, we just want to make sure you're prepared for that. And in addition to those activities, there will be just wonderful, spontaneous opportunities to interact, visit, and play with our new friends there in the village. And so it should be a really wonderful couple of days there in Daman as we have a chance to participate in those types of activities. As we'll be learning about wintergreen, we'll also have the opportunity to learn from the residents of the village and have them learn from us as we partner with them on the project, as we get to know about where they live, their homes, the school, and that learning will go both ways, which is a wonderful part of the expedition. We will learn from them, they will learn from us. And as they welcome us into their community, there will be a wonderful celebration. There will be music, instruments, dancing, and so just prepare for a really wonderful combination of learning new things and getting to celebrate and make some wonderful memories with your new friends there in Daman.
And so with that, Veronica's given a really good overview of what to expect. And in just a minute, we're going to open it up for some Q&A as we kind of look at, important things to bring. I want to hit home on one important thing to start thinking about now. And you've got the sense by now that this is a non-traditional opportunity to travel. And Choice, who has been doing this for over 30 years, has had a lot of participants experience expeditions. And there are three things that we see that help participants to be very successful as an expeditioner, to find joy in the experience and to really grow and make very meaningful memories from this. And first is flexibility. And so what we mean by flexibility is we mean, as we mentioned, many things will change throughout the trip. The itinerary will get adjusted, weather might change, we might work more or less than we anticipate, and we also might find totally new opportunities to spend time with villagers and learn from them or play games from them. And individuals have a much more enjoyable time and are able to experience quite a bit more if they are very open to those changes with a flexible attitude. And then next is a good sense of humor. We will be living closely together, traveling together. Many of you will be camping together with your coworkers in a way you never thought possible. And so that means there will be infinite opportunities to laugh with one another and enjoy that experience rather than resist it. And so we find that as the changes happen and we have to be flexible to those, having a good sense of humor not only makes it more fun and memorable for ourselves, but also for everyone else who's enjoying the experience with us. And then the third, which is most important to think about when you're on the trip, but even starting now, is the idea of mindfulness, or starting to be very thoughtful about your own questions or concerns and starting to voice those concerns with ourselves as leaders and also your team at doTERRA so that you can be prepared as possible. And that way, when you're in the community, you are also very aware of if you're feeling well or not, if you're working too hard or not, if you might need more rest. And so that sense of mindfulness allows you to be very thoughtful about both yourself as well as fellow participants. And the last component around being mindful is being very thoughtful about who we represent as expeditioners when we are invited into the community. And in this instance, we represent ourselves and the nations and countries that we've come from. We also represent doTERRA and the amazing brand and impact of the foundation that has the opportunity to really connect and strengthen with communities. Our experience in the community is an opportunity to leave a good imprint from both our brand. And then lastly, we represent CHOICE Humanitarian, the in-country team who has spent so much time and years building positive, trustworthy relationships with communities. And every expedition is a rare opportunity to be invited into that community. And so we want to make sure that we take advantage of that invitation by building positive relationships. So that is what will help people be a successful expeditioner. There are 3 important rules that you'll see later on once you arrive in the country. We just want to throw those out there now. First is no individual gift giving. That can be difficult because we will encounter individuals at a very different level of standard of living, and we will feel this desire to give anything that we might have that could be of use. And what we find is it's very important because sometimes we don't have enough to give to everyone, or sometimes there are toys for children, but there are extra kids we just didn't think about. And what can happen is if we give without thinking of the full consequences, oftentimes we can create frustrations and feelings of ill will within the community that we might have not intended. Also, we want to make sure that subsequent expeditioners and visitors who come to support the work of CHOICE have the opportunity to visit a community, and we certainly don't want the community to then have a different expectation that they might also be giving something as well. However, as a group, there are appropriate ways to give gifts, and that includes things like school supplies and soccer balls and other resources that we can give not to individuals, but rather to community leadership, to school directors, and to also village committees that can then distribute that to the way that they see fit for their community. And we'll talk a lot more about that, but we want to make sure that that's on your radar. Also, CHOICE is as well as, doTERRA, these are safe spaces for people of all political and religious ideology. And so it's very important on expeditions that there is no religious or political discourse or proselytizing within the group, and also between the group and the communities that we're invited into. And then finally, it's very important to not make promises that we are not able to keep or fulfill while in a community. Again, we want to build and support community members, not disappoint them by making promises that as individuals or an organization, we are not in a position to fulfill. So with that, I want to pull up the packing items, and maybe I'll turn it over to Veronica, also Tim, and they, as well as Rob, to highlight a few of the essential items that you're going to want to pack. And I also want to reiterate that everyone should have a version of this packing list, possibly translated or in English, that's been given to them that you can use as a reference. So this is not the only time you'll see this list, but we do want to use it to free up some time for questions around the essential items to bring for a successful expedition.
Thanks, Jordan. I'll touch on, as you said, just a few essentials. What works best for me when I'm in Nepal is to plan on taking clothing that I can layer to make sure that I'm comfortable during warm, sunny days, and as well as nights that can be chilly. So I'd recommend, as you pack, be thoughtful about clothing that you can layer so that you can keep yourself comfortable, whether it's daytime or evening. I would also recommend making sure that you have a mosquito repellent that works well for you, especially as we're in the Chitwan area. And also that you consult with your own medical provider about anything you might need if you should develop traveler's diarrhea. We find often that azithromycin or a Z-Pak is very effective. So if that works for you, I would recommend having your physician prescribe one for you. It's good if you should get sick, for you to have something that your own healthcare provider has recommended for you. We will be in, as we had mentioned earlier, when we're in camp, there will be bucket showers and things. I recommend like a small microfiber towel that will dry quickly. That's a good resource for you to have as you're washing up there in the village. I know Tim and Robbie will probably pop in with a couple other notes, but a few other things that were discussed is as far as what type of bag to pack in, we find it's very helpful to use bags that have like backpack straps and that can hold your sleeping bag that you'll need to bring. And if you can get a sleeping bag or bring a sleeping bag that is compact but warm enough to keep you comfortable at night, that would be great. I recommend having not only a sleeping bag that will be a comfortable temperature for you, but considering also a sleeping bag liner. That can be a really great way to ensure you're comfortable when we're in the village. And we encourage you to think about bringing a very minimal sleeping mat or pad because your luggage needs to be compact enough that you'll be able to carry it comfortably. To that end, it would be great if it were about 22 kilos or less. And so just a few things to keep in mind as you prepare for especially the village portion of our time together on the expedition.
And I would just make a comment on clothing, and Veronica's mentioned this, but because you will be working, it's important to bring, those items of clothing that you plan to work in that you are okay to have. They might get dirty, they might get stain on them or paint on them. And while we want we ensure you that all clothing will not be ruined on a trip, that you've got a few items that should something happen, that would be okay. And typically what I do is I might have 1 or 2 pants or shirts that I work in each day, and then I change out of that when the work day is done into more comfortable clothing that I won't necessarily ruin. And that allows you to pack a little bit lightly, but also get multiple use out of the things that you'll be working in. And so here's a few more items that have come up here. Rob, Tim, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to highlight while people look at the list.
Let me just mention one thing. Obviously, we'll have a lot of people bringing essential oils on the trip. You do not need to bring additional essential oils for people in these areas. You'll not be bringing in large amounts of essential oils or doing any type of essential oil application in these communities. You're going to bring essential oils. You need to bring essential oils that are sufficient for your potential uses. And there may be some spontaneous opportunities with some of the people to let them smell essential oils or do a hand technique with them, and that can be a nice bonding experience. But you do not need to bring any additional essential oils other than what you might need for your own personal needs. I would emphasize too that although it could be warm, it's also we always have the potential of rain. So be sure you have a good raincoat or some type of rain poncho to keep dry. And it probably makes sense to pack long sleeves and long pants. Going around in shorts and short sleeves might not always be the best alternative when we're out working and we're hiking around and looking at some of these areas, looking at the wintergreen. It's good to cover up, good for bugs to cover up, good to cover up for exposure to the sun. It's probably good to have a hat. That's probably on the list, but some type of hat that you can keep out of the sun. And then again, a good, as Veronica said, a good pair of shoes. And make sure I'll emphasize maybe using bringing clothes that are functional, that are made from synthetic fibers. Maybe avoid cotton fibers on this trip because if they get wet, they may not go dry. So wool is a great fabric for warmth and also for drying very quickly. But dress in layers, as Veronica said. But everybody will do great. I don't know if there's a great need. You don't need to feel like you need to run out and buy real high-tech, expensive equipment or clothes for this trip. But we do want you need to think through and be wise and in your selection, just so you're comfortable during the trip.
Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe now we will open it up for some questions if you have got them. So for those of you who might be muted on the phone, feel free to unmute yourself if you can. I will try and make sure everyone's unmuted if you've got a question.
This is Tim. Just to also emphasize again what Rob was saying about we will get wet. We're the time of year we're in Nepal. There will definitely be rain, so plan on getting wet on a daily basis. So just having clothes and a jacket that's accessible and that you've worn before and that is ideally is breathable. Kind of a rubber raincoat, it wouldn't be good because it traps all the moisture inside. So some kind of waterproof, of course, raincoat that ideally is breathable will be your best friend, because we will definitely be wet. And then also just highlighting on that list of items, Ziploc bags are amazing. Anytime I've gone on expeditions, I always am happy I brought Ziploc bags. So meaning like large jumbo and mid-size ones. They're great for organizing your clothes. If stuff gets wet, they're great to isolate wet clothes so it doesn't get everything else around wet, and also dirty clothes or anything else. So I've found that I've been very happy with any Ziploc bags I brought just for organizing all of the stuff that's in my bag. Also for bags, I would just say ideally waterproof duffel bags I think are probably the best. Again, since it will be wet, you want to just bring a bag with your stuff in it, a backpack or a duffel that ideally has some waterproof material built on it, or like some kind of cover for it would help. Rolling suitcases you're probably will be tough to carry around and be accessible. So some kind of backpack or duffel bag I think is something I would recommend too.
Yeah, that's a great note on the luggage.
So I want to ask, like, how much money you suggest us to bring? Because we don't know, like, do we have chance that we need to use money over there, or like the cost of the thing over there? How much is it?
Great question. How much money to bring? So on the expedition, once you arrive on Saturday, the expedition really kicks off that Saturday evening. And so your meals and hotels and water and food from Saturday till Saturday are really covered. But because there's extra time to explore in Kathmandu that first Saturday, that morning, that Saturday morning, everyone's going to have there, as well as kind of the day before. What we recommend is when you arrive into the airport, typically from an ATM is the best opportunity to withdraw local currency. You will have a more favorable exchange rate, and it really depends on what you anticipate using that local currency for. You will not necessarily need it for meals, etc. But I would recommend getting out anywhere from 50 to 200, let's say, US dollars, in case you anticipate picking up some souvenirs and want to take care of a small extraction of local currency once at the airport while you're there. I believe there will be other opportunities to do that close to the hotel as well, but it's really up to you. It can depend. Oftentimes in communities, there may be opportunities to purchase local handicrafts or souvenirs from local artisans from within a community. So it can be nice to have a little bit of money for that, as well as we're traveling through Chitwan and back to Kathmandu. It can be nice to have in case the opportunity presents itself, but it certainly isn't necessary.
Just a quick question. So when we're up in the mountains, there will be maybe opportunities to buy some handicrafts or not?
It depends. And so it really, we can try and identify whether or not that will be the case with this particular village. Sometimes, for example, on many expeditions, once we're in the community and get a real, and Vishnu usually has a sense of that beforehand, whether or not the community has market type opportunities or goods that they would love to put out. And so it definitely can be available. We'll try and confirm that before the trip goes out. But in preparation for that, I think the rule of thumb would be if you anticipate, hoping to get some souvenirs, having some cash when you make it out en route to the community is helpful if the opportunity presents itself. And sometimes, for example, on a recent expedition to Mexico, it was a very last minute opportunity that the community presented and had initially shied away from. And so sometimes even when we might have a definitive answer of yes or no, once we're in the community, opportunities present themselves, and we certainly want to take advantage of those if there's interest from participants.
And Jordan, if there's not availability in the mountains, a lot of people might have maybe some extra time
exactly
in the capital. And I understand there are different places, shopping places in the capital, that if you wanted to pick up some things unique to Nepal, there's plenty of opportunities of that in Kathmandu, right?
Yeah. And they will have time on this agenda. They'll have some flex time in Kathmandu in order to be able to do that. And so that's why I recommend upon arriving at the airport, that ATM is a great place to get some local currency. Also, if you want to exchange some before you arrive, that can simplify it as well.
Hello?
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. This is Masako. Are there any areas that we can get internet connection?
So there will be internet connection in Kathmandu, of varying quality at the Shambhala Hotel. It's one of the finer hotels in the area, but it can just depend. But there will be internet connection there. It is unlikely that there will be cellular or internet connection once we leave out of the primary area of Kathmandu, completely depending on your phone and your cellular service. It can be very intermittent when we're in the community, but more often than not, it is non-existent.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And one more question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
During the village stay, how many people share one room?
Yeah, so in the hotels, prior to the village and after, rooms will generally be double occupancy. So you will be paired, and we will work with your team leads and doTERRAs to try and prepare that as thoughtfully as possible. When we get to the community, we will likely be in 2 larger schoolroom and community center spaces, which means very large room that accommodates 15 to 20 people in each room. So kind of a very large group setting. And so what that can look like is every couple feet, you will set up your individual pad and sleeping bag, and almost right behind you or next to you, you will set up your duffel bag, and that will be your home for a few nights. And right next to you, there might be another coworker. What we do is we do try to ensure that everyone is comfortable. And so we will try and group those rooms up, sometimes into smaller segments of 5 to 6 people, maybe men in one area, women in other areas, couples or families in another, to make sure that everyone has a comfortable space. That said, everyone will be getting very close together in a very camping type environment. Also, we make sure that there are comfortable places to change your clothing and to be able to use the restrooms that are private in nature. And so everyone will obviously have, a very safe and private space for the changing of clothes, restrooms, etc.
Thank
you. Great question, though. I probably got you smiling now.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Yes. I'm Ken from Japan office. I may have a person who smokes.
Okay.
Is it okay to smoke in Nepal, or should we ask him not to smoke for a week?
So a few thoughts. Generally speaking, from Choice Humanitarian, it is okay if someone smokes. What we do ask is that because of the nature of group accommodations and camping and sleeping, that everyone, you be very mindful of the opportunities when you do smoke, finding opportunities to do that outside, en route, etc. There we go. And if there should be any cultural insensitivities to smoking, which I don't believe there are. Tim, I don't know if you or Veronica have picked up on any particular issue when in the village with respect to smoking that we should touch on.
I've not seen much of it, but I do know that cigarettes are purchased and smoked by a number of the men there. But to be frank, I have not seen them used often myself.
Okay. And that's,
yeah, I mean, I think it's not uncommon, but not I don't think it'll be taboo if someone's smoking, but yeah, it's not as common, but still done. Usually, probably from just a total financial perspective, it's expensive to smoke in these rural areas for people.
That's great. So I wouldn't necessarily pass on a particular recommendation other than be mindful that you're traveling with a large group and seek out those opportunities to do so, that are in a clear open space, and that should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, may I have a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Our group will arrive in Nepal the day before the trip started. So can you help us to arrange a bus from airport to Shambhala Hotel on site?
Yeah, so we will have the itineraries of every member who's arriving, including those who arrived the night before and who also might need the booking or reservations of an additional accommodation at the exact same hotel. So for those who do arrive before, we will be there, your choice leaders, along with the in-country team and the shuttle to pick you up from the airport and get you all set up at the hotel. So we will have that information. We work very closely with Tammy. So as long as Tammy has those requests and those details, we will ensure that everything's taken care of.
Thank you, that's great.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, we will end it just with the note that should any other questions come up, you can always reach out to Tammy, myself, and increasingly Veronica and Tim as well. Once you guys all get into the country, we're here to help you prepare for this, and so there's no question that you certainly can't float past us. And we're very excited to see you. And to reiterate, you guys are participating in a very important trip as part of a very important partnership with Choice Humanitarian and the Nepalese people that's made a huge impact, not only through the amazing reconstruction that you will all be a part of and witnessing in terms of improving the schoolhouses and the strength of those, but also through the amazing work that's been going on to create jobs and create an industry and support an industry around doTERRA wintergreen. And so it's such an important thing that you have all made a decision to do to participate on this trip. And we really look forward to working together on this expedition and learning a lot together. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jordan. And thank you, everybody who's taking the time and the resources to join us on this expedition. This will be a great trip. You're going to be in great hands with Veronica and Jordan, and you're very lucky that you get Tim Valentina from the company going with you. You'll also have Greg and Greg Cook and also Corey Lindley on your trip. And anyway, this is a kind of a once in a lifetime experience. We only can take, these small groups. We'll continue to return to Nepal in the future, but if you're one of the lucky ones that gets to go and experience what we're doing there, that's a great opportunity for you. And we hope as you experience this trip and you learn more about what we're doing, that you share through social media and other communication channels. We want you to spread the word, and so people will understand what co-impact sourcing is and the difference we're making in the world. But again, thank you, Veronica and Jorda. Thank you, Tim, for being on the call, and you guys will have a great trip, and it'll be here soon. So I hope this call has everybody excited for it, and we'll talk to everybody soon. If you have any questions, you can refer your questions to your local offices. But Tammy Pack here at our corporate offices can also help with any specific questions. But anyway, we appreciate everybody's attendance on the call today. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.